Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first live career Q&A show of 2020. I'm so excited that you guys are here today. I can see you all in the chat, so thank you for jumping in and letting me know you're here. We are going to be covering the top 10 resume mistakes that you are making that are costing you the job. Now, I want to know before we get started, give this video a big, huge thumbs up if you are super excited about today's topic and if you can hear me and see me okay. This is our very first live stream of 2020. I'm so excited to catch up with you guys. If you have ever joined me live before, you know that my live streams are very interactive. So I'm going to be asking you guys a lot of questions today. I'm also going to be looking for your name in the chat. So make sure if I ask you a question, you jump in there and let me know your answer. Also, we will have time today for some live questions. So if you are in the job search process and you are writing your resume, you're coming up with the cover letter, you're working on your LinkedIn profile, you're already interviewing, if you have any questions about the process that you're in right now, make sure you jump your question into the chat. Tori, my teammate, is here. She is going to be collecting all of your questions and I will be answering them throughout this live stream and specifically at the end of the live stream. So make sure again that you get your questions in there. I see a lot of really familiar faces in here. I'm so happy you guys are here. It looks like Jonathan jumped in super early. Kimberly, hello. My favorite student is here. We have someone, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, so I'm not going to try it. Alexandra is here. Karen is here. Sean, Aran, Ryan, Sean from Ottawa, Canada. Hello, Melissa. Hello, Melissa. I'm so glad that you could make it today. Naveen. We have so many of you guys here. Thank you so much for jumping in. If you have not yet said hi in the chat, make sure you jump in. Tell me where you are joining us from. And also, if you have we are going to be talking all about the top 10. So we have 10 mistakes that you might be making on your resume. I've never covered these top 10 mistakes before. So tune in, take notes, get active, participate in the chat. Let me know as we go through what your biggest takeaway is. Let me know if you have any questions about the process. Also, I do need to announce, if you have not yet heard, we have a special New Year flash sale running for our Career Advancement Toolkit. I'm going to share with you some of the results that are that those that have the toolkit have experienced, but we have a New Year flash sale running. This flash sale is only for 2 days. So if you have thought about getting the toolkit and you haven't yet grabbed it, or if this is your first time learning about the toolkit, it is a digital download of everything that you need to land more interviews and better job offers. Now, let me quickly show you what some of my students have said about the toolkit. Now, I got a message from Pam. Pam applied for 11 jobs. She heard back from 8 positions and then she was offered 3. Now, here's the interesting thing about Pam. She was 38 years in one position and she just decided, hey, it's time for something new. I want something new here. And she jumped into the process and she realized, wait a second, I'm facing age discrimination. And she was really discouraged. What ended up happening, however, is that she applied for 11 jobs, heard back from 8, and was offered 3. She goes on to say, thank you for giving me the confidence to pursue a different job opportunity. Now, Kristen, here's another success story. Kristen actually gave her resume to 12 recruiters, and 4 hours later, she had 6 interview offers. And she goes on to say that all of these are really good options. She didn't even think that they were possible. Let me tell you what happened to Larry. Larry had a job offer and he was actually offered $17,000 more than he expected. And he goes on to say, thank you for helping me build my confidence as far as interviewing goes. And then let me tell you what happened to Dawn really quickly. Dawn hadn't had an interview in over 20 years. Now, how scary is that? You haven't been on an interview in over 20 years. What ended up happening is that she landed a job offer in 3 days. So she actually had a panel interview. And by the way, I have a video coming out in a couple weeks about panel interviews. She had a panel interview. 3 hours later, she was called back for the second interview. She went in and she even had to do a presentation in front of the vice president. Is that scary? And then 3 days later, she was offered the job. So these are just a few of the success stories from some of the individuals that have used the tools, the resources, the examples, the templates available inside the Career Advancement Toolkit. I will show you guys an example of the toolkit as we get into the content today. Also, Tori popped in the link into the chat. So if you guys want to take a look at the link, we do have a 2-day flash sale running for the toolkit. So if you have wanted to get your hands on that, or if you just feel stuck in your job search or stuck where you are, such a fantastic time and opportunity to grab the toolkit. Now, I want to ask you a question before we jump into the content. So we're going to, again, be talking about the top 10 resume mistakes that you're making that are costing you the job. Tell me in the chat, how long do you think your resume should be? Now, I gave this question in my Facebook group. I put this through to my Facebook group this week, and let me kind of show you what most everyone answered in here, and then you tell me what you think in the chat. Let's talk about it. So Frank says that he's been told that if you have under 5 years of related work history, it should be a 1-page. And then he goes on to say if you have 5 years of related if you have over 5 years, it should be a 2-page. Viral says no more or less than 2, depending on your work experience. So let me know. I want to hear what your thought is. What do you think? How long should your resume be? Let me get to our next one, Carrie. So Carrie popped into the group and she said she thinks that if you have less than 10 years of work experience, it should be a 1-page. And if you have more than 10 years, it should be a 2-page. And then Elisa says 1 to 2 pages, otherwise it gets boring. Yes, it does get pretty boring. And resumes are sort of like those stuffy formal documents, right? You guys know I talk a lot about resumes here on my channel, but I enjoy talking about them, but I do get that they do get boring. So what do you guys think? 1 to 2, maybe even 3 pages? How long should your resume be? Let me see what you guys have answered in here. Sean says no more than 2 pages. Angelica says 1. Varney says 2 pages. Janet, I'm stuck writing my resume. Janet, it's okay. I'm glad you're here today because I'm going to help you with that. Sushma says 2 pages. Peter, 2 pages with 25 years of experience. 2, 1.5, 1 page. It looks like we're kind of mixed between 1 and 2 pages. Now I'm going to jump into, we're going to talk a little bit about resume length today, and I'll tell you exactly how long your resume should be, but you guys have some fantastic answers in here. Okay, let's jump into these top 10 mistakes to avoid. Now, if you have a pencil and a paper, jot this stuff down because this is some good information here. And I'm going to show you guys examples as we go throughout today's live stream. Also, remember, Tori, my team members in the chat, if you have any questions that you want answered, make sure you pop that in as well so that we can get to those. So the top 10 resume mistakes to avoid. The very first mistake is including your full address. So I want to know who has their full address on their resume. Who has their full address on their resume? So this is one of the mistakes that I get, and I work with a lot of job seekers every week and every month. And one of the things that a lot of them do is they will submit their resume to me with their full address. Now, following along with resume trends for 2020 and moving into the future, we are actually eliminating your full address from your resume only because it's security purposes. A lot of times these documents are floating around online. You might submit them to an online application. Maybe it's going from like one person's inbox to another. Again, we want to keep your information private, so we don't want to put your full address ever on your resume. Now, if you are living in the States or you have a place where you can put just your city, your state, and your zip, that's totally fine. But we're not going to put 123 Spring Meadow Courtyard or whatever. Okay, we're not going to put the full address. We're just going to put your city, state, and your zip. Let me see what you guys have said in the chat. Angelica says, "Oh my!" So I'm sure you have it on yours, Angelica, and that's okay. We can easily remove it. Sean says, "Ah, snap! I do." That's okay, Sean. Just take it off. Jonathan asks a question. We'll get to your question a little bit. Someone says, "Oh gosh, PPP." Not sure who you are, but you said, "I do." Okay, so yeah, one of the things we want to do is, Karen also says, I do, we want to make sure that your resume does not have your full address on it. Now, let me show you what you can do instead, because this is mistake number 2 that a lot of people make, is not including your LinkedIn profile URL. So I want to know in the chat, do you have your LinkedIn profile URL on your resume? And if you don't, you need to make sure you get it on there. So your LinkedIn profile URL is going to take place of your address in a way. You're still going to include your location, right? We're not taking the address off totally, but we are going to include your location, so your city, state, your zip, and then, well, of course, your phone number. And then your email address, and then your LinkedIn profile URL. So I want to know if you have your LinkedIn profile URL on your resume. The other thing I want to know is it custom? So what I mean by a custom LinkedIn URL is it your name in some format, like your first and your last name, or is it like some version of your name, first, middle, whatever? But we don't want to see the default LinkedIn URL that LinkedIn gives you, which is like a variation of numbers and characters, right? We want to see your name and your, like, so it's easy to read. So let me see what you guys have. A lot of you said yes. Okay, so I'm removing now. So she's removing the address and now hopefully putting the LinkedIn URL on. Naveen says not yet, LinkedIn. That's okay. Someone says yes, I do have. So fantastic. Awesome. Okay. So you guys are doing fantastic so far. Now let's move on to our resume mistake number 3. And I want to see if you guys are doing this. Resume mistake number 3 is including an objective. So let me know in the chat if you have an objective on your resume. And if you do, or excuse me, if you don't, let me know, what we put there instead. And I'm going to tell you guys, but I want to see if you can beat me to it. What do we put in place of an objective statement rather than the objective, right? So an objective statement is something that we used on resumes like years ago, and it basically told a company what you want out of the position. Okay, so you'd basically say, this is what I want. And you would tell them what you're looking for rather than telling them how you can help them solve their problems. So we put something specific now on the resume rather than an objective statement. And it looks like Jason's asking for an example. Yep, I'm going to pull up an example really quick here in just a second, Jason. But when we are looking at how we start a resume, yes. Okay. You guys are awesome. So someone popped in and said a professional summary. Reem, I think is how you say your name, says a professional summary. Someone else said summary, not objective. No objective, summary instead. Yes. Okay. You guys are like letter A students. Like you guys are doing awesome. Okay. Sean says, oh snap, another boo-boo. That's okay. We want to get a professional summary of some type on your resume. Now, your summary could also be called your professional profile. It could be called a career summary, a career profile. There's so many different names for it, but I like to call it a professional summary. And what we do with the summary is we tell the employer how we can help them solve some of their greatest problems. So rather than us telling them what we want, we are now speaking to what they want. So we're also telling them, not only can we help you solve these problems, but here is how. Here are the expertise that we have. Here are the specialties. Here's my talents. Here's my experience. And this is how I'm going to help you solve that problem. Now, I want to show you guys an example really quickly. Again, we have our 2-day flash sale running on the Career Advancement Toolkit. I want to jump to the example resume. So inside the Career Advancement Toolkit, we have a resume template and an example, okay? I'm going to show you guys the example really quickly, and I'm actually calling this the Career Advancement Toolkit 2.0 because we actually just updated the toolkit just this past weekend to reflect any new content or any new resume trends or any new trends at all for 2020. So I want to show you, this is a little bit different if you have seen this before. The format's a little bit different than the previous toolkits, the previous toolkit that I've shown you guys. What we have done here is we are including what we would call a unique identifier. Now, I'm not going to get into that during this live stream because that's a whole nother topic. But what I want to show you, because someone had asked about the example, I want to show you what your professional summary can look like. So this paragraph here is an example of my professional summary. Now, below that, is an example of my professional highlights. Now you'll notice the changes that I've made here is I'm not necessarily using the title professional highlights anymore, but you could use that. Remember, there is no right or wrong way to write your resume. What I am presenting to you here is like the best practices in resume writing today. Right now, the best practice in terms of you want to get your resume noticed. These are the things that I have put together for you to get it noticed. So this is just a quick example of how you could compose your summary. Now, I want to jump in because remember, we have quite a few mistakes to cover, and then we'll also jump into questions. Mistake number 4, and believe it or not, I see this quite a few times, listing your oldest job first. So I review a lot of resumes every week for people, helping them get their resumes ready for submission and applications and all sorts of things. And one of the mistakes I see is individuals will place their oldest job first. Now, what we want to focus on when it comes to your resume, and jot this down, write this down if you're in a place where you can jot notes, take notes. We want your resume to be in a reverse chronological order. So what that means is you're listing your most current position first. The reason why is because that's what employers want to see. They want to know, what are you doing right now? They don't necessarily want to know what you did 10 or 20 years ago. They want to know what you're doing right now. So that's why we want to focus on the reverse chronological format. So let me know in the chat. Are you in violation of mistake number 4, listing your oldest job first? Let me know if you guys are in violation. And I have to show you this. I know I show you guys my mugs. My girlfriend bought this for me for the holidays. And she's like, when you go live, you better show my mug. So I'm showing you her mug so that I can send her this later and she can see. So let me know, are you in violation of mistake number 4, where you are listing your oldest job first? Let me kind of see where you guys are in the chat. Again, I like to ask a lot of questions, so be sure to participate. If you have not yet said hi and you're watching, please, please, please say hi. Let me know that you're here. I'd love to welcome you guys. Good. Sean says, nope, finally. Okay, fantastic. So not listing oldest job first. Naveen says, I've joined my first job. Fantastic. Peter says no. Kimberly says no. Good. Angelica says, I got this one. So good. Naveen, no, not for me. So good. Okay, you guys, fantastic. Now let's move on to our other mistakes that you might be making that are costing you the job. And then of course, I'm going to take questions when we are finished with these mistakes. So mistake number 5 is not including keywords. Let me tell you what I mean by the keywords. When you apply for a position, you normally will check out the job posting, right? And you'll kind of get an idea for what they're looking for. Well, it's super, super, super important that you are looking at common keywords and keyword phrases that are popping up in the job posting, and that you are putting those common keywords and keyword phrases in your resume. So a lot of times this will mean you have to tailor your resume. Now, I don't want you to spend hours and hours and hours tailoring to each position. And that's why inside the Career Advancement Toolkit, I provide a clear path for you so that you can change certain keywords on the resume and submit it for a position. So you're not spending a lot of time really, even though I'm saying, yes, you need to tailor your resume, but again, we want it to be a simple process. We want it to be easy. We want it to be something that you can follow along with really quickly. So when it comes to keywords, you want to make sure that you are putting as many keywords in there as possible. Now, let me pop over to the toolkit again, and I want to show you a quick example here of what I mean by keywords. So notice on this resume, it says Vice President of Sales. That is a keyword. Notice here we also have revenue growth, market penetration, and leadership training. Those are keywords and keyword phrases, okay? Notice here we also have a nice core competency section, and this core competency section, these are keywords, okay? So again, we are littering this resume with as many keywords as possible that relate to the position, okay? So make sure you include keywords in there. Now, I want to know, do you have a good grasp on keywords, do you feel like, for your resume? Or do you just kind of have like a general resume that you submit and you kind of are submitting the same resume over and over and over? Let me know in the chat if that's you. Looks like you guys are also having some good conversations about our career club. If you guys have not yet joined that, Tori did share the link to the career club. That's on Facebook. That's my free group on Facebook. It's a private community. You have to request to join. There's a couple questions that you have to ask to get into the group, but it's a safe place for you guys to ask career questions. Such a fantastic group. I think we have close to 4,000 professionals in there now. So we're always having conversations in there. If you have not yet joined, I think Tori and you guys are having some conversations in the chat about it. I love to see that. So, okay, awesome. Good. Someone said, Sean says general all the time. Okay, no worries, Sean. We want you to add some keywords from the position in there just to make sure you're speaking their language, right? Momo, hello. So glad you're here. Yes, I do. No general resume. Fantastic. Richard says, hi, Richard. So glad that you're here. Awesome. So good, you guys. And remember, questions that you have, pop them in and we will go ahead and answer those at the end here. Okay, let's jump into, we have a few more mistakes to share, and I'm really curious to know if you guys are making these mistakes. Okay, incorrect length. Now, remember we talked a little bit about when the live stream started, we talked about how long should your resume be, and a lot of you said 1 to 2 pages. I shared with you kind of what the Facebook group commented on that. Now, here is the general rule of thumb, and there's a few different guidelines out there. I actually like to recommend, and I used to sort of recommend 5 pages, or excuse me, not 5 pages. I used to recommend if you had 5 years of experience or less, stick to a 1 page. I actually kind of think you could still use a 1-page resume if you have like 6 to 7 years of work experience, okay? But if you have any more than that, you can use a 2-page resume. Now, we never want to go over a 3-page resume unless you are applying for an academic position. Now, I work with a lot of professors and a lot of individuals that are applying for like professor positions or campus president positions, and they write what we would call a CV. In the United States, we call that the CV, and it could be anywhere from 5 pages to 20 pages. Now, that's a different situation when we talk about your resume and you're applying for a professional position. If you have less than 7 years of work experience, stick to it will be general, 5 to 7, stick to a 1-page resume. If you have more than that, you can use a 2-page resume. Now, here's the cool thing about the Career Advancement Toolkit is I show you a couple different sections that you can use on your resume. So again, we always talk about like if you have volunteer experience, if you have professional memberships that you want to add, if you have languages that you want to add. There's so many cool things that you can add to beef up your resume, to show your personality a little bit more, and to show your skills, your talents, and your expertise. So again, I always recommend using the correct length and never go over into 3 pages. If you do have a 1.5-page resume, that's a big no-no. If you're going to go to a 2-page, you have to use the full 2 pages, okay? If you're like, oh shoot, like I can't use this full 2 pages, think about, can you just put it on 1 page? How can you make it look good on 1 page and really show who you are with just 1 page? Okay, next one. This is a big one, guys. This is a big one. Not using accomplishment-driven bullet points. So this is one that even my most advanced resume writing people do. So what I mean by accomplishment-driven bullet points is not telling them really like what it is that you do. It's almost like you stop short. You write a sentence and you stop short. You don't fully finish it, okay? So when we talk about accomplishment-driven bullet points, what we are talking about here, and tell me in the chat if you feel like you have some good accomplishment-driven bullet points on your resume, and I'll explain kind of what they are while you guys are typing into the chat. When we want, what we're talking about here is we want an accomplishment-driven bullet point where you are listing some sort of action verb, okay? So this could be anything. It could be organized, implemented, participated in, whatever, okay? But then after that action verb, you then want to tell them the task. So what was the task that you did? And then this is the most important part. You then want to tell them the result. What was the result of that task that you performed? Now, a lot of times what I see is someone will just give me the action verb and then the task. So, they could say something like organized a team of supervisors, or what managed a team of supervisors, and then they stop. That's all they say. So we need to go further than that. So we would say managed a team of supervisors to do something, or to accomplish this, or to achieve this. So we have to make sure that we are finishing the sentence and that we are showing them the task that you performed and the result. Now, here is a key. Here's a kicker when it comes to this. You can always list the result first and then the task. Okay, you can mix them up. Now, last week, and Tori has the link to this. Tori, if you can pop into the chat. Last week, a couple weeks ago, I did a video, and it was how to write a winning resume in 2020. Watch that video. It has some of the latest resume trends. I tell you exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to these accomplishment-driven bullet points. I developed this video with a team of executive professional resume writers to make sure that we were sharing with you the latest and the greatest up-to-date information on resume writing. So make sure you take a look at that video. Tori will pop it into the chat. Also, if you are listening to this on the replay, we will also include the link to the video in the comments section. So make sure you take a look at that. Now that video, I think it's maybe 7 minutes long, and it gets straight to the point on exactly what you need to do. And I share a bunch of examples there as well. So take a look at that more on the accomplishment statements. Okay, questions again. If you have them, please pop them into the chat. I'm gonna answer those at the very end today. It looks like Naveen says I need to improve a lot, and that's why you're here. So glad that you're here. You guys are having some fantastic conversations there. Kimberly says, I have good ones now. I just revised them last week. Oh, so good, Kimberly. I'm so happy that you did that. Okay, we have a couple more mistakes to talk about. Mistake number 8 is lousy formatting. Okay, this is going to ruffle some of your feathers, I think. When it comes to formatting, okay, formatting to me is dear to my heart. I love formatting resumes. I don't know why, but it's one of my most favorite things to do. One of the mistakes I see when it comes to the formatting is if you are using columns, if you're using tables, if you're using text boxes, anything that is not just a nice, clean, simple formatted resume. Now, this goes for all of you that are using a resume building platform. What happens with those resume builders is they do make your resume look super cool. Okay. They give you some super cool icons. They give you everything looks nice in a column format. They might even pop some tables in there. They make it look great. The only problem with that is that if you submit your resume to any sort of applicant tracking system, it jumbles all the information. So then it's when it gets through to the employer to read through your information, if it even makes it through the employer, it's one section might show up at the top that you were intending to show up at the bottom. It comes out really strange. So we want to stay clear of resume builders only because of applicant tracking systems. Now, here's the other thing to keep in mind when it comes to using any strange formatting. If I'm a hiring official or if I'm a recruiter, right, I know where to look for certain things on a resume. When I get a resume that has tables and columns and strange text boxes, I don't know where to look. So it almost takes me longer to evaluate that resume. Where if I get a resume that's nice and simple and I know I can see the professional summary at the top, I can see any highlights and core competencies, and then I know I'm going to jump right into the work experience section and then right into the education, I can read that resume so much faster. When we look at the lousy formatting, it complicates things. So again, we want to keep things simple, clean, sophisticated. Again, in the video that I did a couple weeks ago, I talk a little bit more about that. So make sure you guys watch that. I think I called it the 5 keys to. If you have, let me know kind of what your experience has been. Maybe you've had success with it. I'm not really sure, but from my experience and from what I have seen, it kind of clogs up the system. It kind of like makes it so that things aren't running smoothly. So again, let me know in the chat, have you ever used a resume builder, or and if you have, what has your experience been with it? Okay, Sean has a really good comment here with the PDFs. So yes, when it comes to a PDF resume, we actually want, when you do submit your resume to an applicant tracking system, we do want it in Word format, so not PDF. But PDF is good for if you're submitting it to a person, because then it doesn't jumble things up. Good. Sam says, please don't delete this video. I won't. I'll leave it up for you, Sam. Okay, Angelica says yes through Career Edge. Okay, so Angelica's used the resume builder. Sean says a Word template. Let me make a note on templates as well. So I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel, and that's why in the Career Advancement Toolkit, I actually give you a resume template, but it's a template that is like proven through and through. So it's not a random like columns and fancy things. This is like a resume that my executive professionals use to do things like landing jobs, making 2 times what they're currently making, or even landing a job after looking for work for over a year. All those testimonials that I shared with you before when we started this, though, that's what my template does. It's not a, it's a very easy to follow. You can even make the change. You can even switch sections around if you need to. It's very easy to use, and it comes with a lot of, we put a lot of time and effort into it to make it easier for you. Awesome comments. Awesome comments. Okay, let's go into mistake number 9, and then we'll finish with mistake 10, and then I'll answer your questions. It looks like we had a ton of questions come in. Okay, so mistake number 9, typos or grammatical errors. Oh, okay. This happens every single resume that I read. I find some typo or some sort of error on it. Either there was a dot wasn't there, there was a word that was supposed to be capitalized. This is something that as humans, we are bound to have happen, okay? It's bound to happen to us. So let me share with you a quick fix to this. Well, I'm going to share with you 2 quick fixes because I feel like this helps me. Whenever I'm working with a client or a student in any way where they are getting ready to get their resume sent off for a position, I print the resume out. I print it out. And the reason why I do is because our eyes, it's easier for us to read paper than it is on the screen. And of course, I get my bifocals on and everything, right? Because I don't want to miss anything. And I will proof the resume printed out. And then what I'll do is I'll make marks and I'll, whatever I need to do to it. And then I give them the feedback so that they can make improvements. But then I also tell them, print this out and give this to 2 or 3 people that can also proofread it for you, because this is a document. This is your career history. Okay. This is your career story. We don't want any errors in here. We don't want any typo. We want everything to be spelled correctly. It needs to be perfect. Okay. Especially if it's a document that you're reusing over and over and over, and maybe you're just changing those keywords. We need it to be perfect. So we do not want any errors. So again, print it out, give it to 2 or 3 people, and have them review it for you. Now, have you guys ever done a resume and later noticed that there was a typo? Let me know in the chat if that has ever happened to you, because I know that has happened to people that I have worked with before they send me their resume. But a lot of times it can be fixed by simply just having others proofread it for you. So let me know if you have ever ran into that situation before. Awesome. Love it. You guys are doing fantastic. In the chat, Naveen says exactly. Yes, it is your career history. Sean says, reading through typos, it's like taking a walk and always tripping on your way. Yes. Isn't that the truth? I love that analogy, Sean. Thank you for mentioning that. Momo says yes. Katie says yes. It's hard when you're so into it, and then especially if you've spent hours on your resume, the last thing you want to do is like look at it for typos, right? So I always suggest giving it to a couple other people to proofread, and even sleep on it and then take a look at it the next day. So good. Awesome. You guys are doing amazing. Kimberly says yes. Ryan says yes. So good. Okay. Let's talk about our last mistake. And I want to know if you guys do this, and don't feel shame if you do, because we're going to fix it, right? So mistake number 10 is including the phrase references available upon request. So have you guys had that ever on your resume? I know that it's something that people did years and years ago. They used to put this on their resume. And this is one of the biggest mistakes. And let me tell you why. Your resume is like such valuable real estate. And when we even use one line to say something simple as references available upon request, we are missing out. We're missing out a huge opportunity. And not only that, we are using up that valuable space where we can add things. We can add something else about how great we are. And the references available upon request, that's like a given. Like if I'm a recruiter or a hiring official and I'm reading your resume, I know that I'm going to get references eventually, right? And I know that I can just tell you, hey, I'm ready for your references, and you would give them a separate reference sheet. In fact, in the Career Toolkit, I have a nicely formatted reference sheet, like it's a reference sheet template that you can use. And I show you exactly how to format their name, their job title, if you include their address, phone number, email, so on and so forth. So we always want to leave that as something that the employer reaches out to us for. We never want to put references available upon request. So it looks like, let me see if you guys, some of you in the chat have done that. Oh, Aaron says, yes, Heather, I have. No worries, Aaron. Make sure it's not there now. Peter says yes in an email, but okay, and that's fine. And Peter makes a really good point about mentioning it in an email. You can say, when the time's right, I'm happy to provide my references or whatever. Okay, however you want to mention that, but never on your resume. Varney says, just customize my LinkedIn URL. So good. Mika says, yes. Critty says, oh yes. Naveen says, no. Good. Kimberly says, no. It looks like, so some of you have included it on your resume and some of you haven't. So I want to know from you, what is your biggest takeaway so far from today's live stream? What is your biggest takeaway so far? And are you learning something? Let me know if this is valuable to you so that I know if I should do live streams like this in the future. Let me know what your biggest takeaway is so far. And while you are typing that into the chat, I want to remind you of our 2-day flash sale on the Career Advancement Toolkit. Let me share with you guys a couple other success stories from those that have used the resources. So I got this message from an individual who says, I was offered the job immediately after the second interview. And they go on to say, thank you. So again, and they even say in here, preparing really pays off. And yes, I totally agree. And let me show you from Sula, and I don't know if you're here today, Sula. Say hi if you are. Sula, and she's probably not because she's working, right? She already got a job. So this is what we call the 3-3-3 factor. So she had 3 interviews, 3 levels of managers in just 3 weeks. And she goes on to say, thank you, Heather Austin, for helping make this happen with your constant support and resources. So again, these are the types of results that we want you guys to see. And if you're interested in grabbing the Career Toolkit for our 2-day New Year flash sale, please make sure you do. And if you have any questions, pop them into the chat. We are going to jump into those. And let me just see kind of what you guys said about your biggest. We have some biggest takeaways here. Valuable and always learn something new from you. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Katie says, oh, yes, Heather. She says, thanks. it's very valuable to me, and I really struggle with my resume because of lack of experience. I only have experience from past internships and self-taught. And no worries, Katie, make sure you include your internship experience and any volunteer experience on your resume. A lot of mistakes, formatting and tailoring. Yes, core competencies are a big one. Yep, so glad you mentioned that, Peter. Angelica says, this information is so valuable. I review resumes for students. So awesome. I love that. Sean says, can you suggest someone to review a resume? Yes, Sean, if you're interested in, and I do a resume review show every so often here on my channel. We do get hundreds of submissions for that, and my team and I will pick like 5 or 6. If you're interested in like a resume critique, Tori, potentially pop the work with me link into the chat, and then I can look at doing that for you. Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Okay, let's jump into questions, you guys. So looks like we have quite a few. So I will get to them as quickly as possible. Again, if you guys need any links or resources, today we were packed full with them. Make sure you take a look at the video that I did a couple weeks ago about how to write a winning resume for 2020. Also, if you have ever wanted to get your hands on the toolkit, now is such a fantastic time to do it for our 2-day New Year flash sale. Okay, so let me jump into some questions, and I may not get to all of them because we have quite a few, but I will pick some that kind of apply it like a commonly asked question to help everyone that might be here today with me live or listening to the replay. And by the way, if you are listening on the replay, if you have a question, feel free to pop it into the comments below. I normally reply or respond to every comment that I get here on my channel. And I will try and respond to you as well. Okay, so let's see. Which position can I write on my profile if I have recently graduated? Okay, this is a question. I need a little bit more context behind this one. I would almost say, do you have volunteer experience that you can put in there? Internships, that kind of stuff would be really valuable. If you are a recent graduate, however, one thing that you can do is you're going to lead with your education again. So remember that employers are looking for what you're doing now. They want to know what is your most recent experience. So that's what we're always going to lead with on our resume. Okay, Peter, what do you have for advice for age discrimination who received a college degree in 2012 in a different field and not getting any offers? Oh, Peter, such a good question. Tori, on my channel, I had a video that came out in December where I talk all about age discrimination. Can you locate that video and pop that into the chat for Peter? Because I go into detail about that. And, 2012 really is not that long ago, Peter. So I don't think, I would almost be curious to know what else is it that would be preventing the job offer. Because that's still, or maybe you're saying, maybe you're using that as like new, like you're, because I do, this video that I did is meant for like anyone that is either, new to the field or someone that's been working for a while and they're not getting job offers. So that's a really good resource for you. Eliza, hello. Hopefully you're still here with me today. Eliza, I have a question. After applying for a job internship offer, should I contact the company by phone or email in order to stand out and remind them about my candidature? I would do both. I love that you brought this up because I feel like so many job seekers don't do this step, and it can set you apart in so many fantastic ways. I always say, if you submit your resume, try and do whatever you can to get in touch with the person. So whether that's email, whether that's phone, whether that's both, whether it's one person, 2 person, 3 people, whatever, get in touch with the person, do whatever you can to do that. And it could even be reaching out on LinkedIn. So yes, do both. Good question, Eliza. Jason, any advice for recent graduates that may not have a good GPA but trying to get interview that lead to an offer? Jason, don't worry about your GPA, okay? I did not have a good GPA in school, and I never listed it. It does not matter, okay? Unless the company is looking for your GPA. They might say, hey, we only want to hire 4.0 students. And if that's fine, that's great. Move on to a different company. Don't worry about your GPA. What you have to focus on, Jason, is let's focus on your soft skills. So these are like your character, your personality, some of the skills that you learned in school. GPA, I feel like, is so overrated unless the company is specifically asking for it. Jonathan, what's the best way to make your CV look professional as an incoming film industry professional? Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I'm going to recommend, Jonathan, that you grab the toolkit because I have an exact example and a template for you to follow that will make your resume look or your CV look professional. And then in terms of film, or you mentioned the film industry, again, this relates to anyone that might have this question in their own industry. You have to tailor the resume. So make sure if you are going into film that you're using keywords and keyword phrases that those employers are looking for. Your resume needs to be really thick with those. Good question, Jonathan. Jason, can you give us an example? Yep, I did that. Awesome. Okay, good, Jason. I think I answered your question earlier. Jonathan, what is one way I can make my life story come across as inspiring with art? You want to win an Oscar. Okay, so Jonathan, this of course is a question that we need to take more time on. But what I would recommend when you're talking about your life or your career story, you're always going to be focusing on what are you doing right now and how did you get to that point? And then inside of that, some of your greatest accomplishments. So if you can get those three things into you telling your life or your career story, then I think you'll be golden. Good. Let's see. Okay. PPP says, do we have to put our LinkedIn on our resume with just the city, state, postal? I think I probably answered this question. So when it comes to your LinkedIn URL, let me show you guys really quickly the example again so that you can kind of see what I mean by the top of your resume. So let me push that down a little bit. You'll notice that in this example, again, this is the example inside the toolkit. We have phone number, city, state, zip, email address, and then LinkedIn URL. So that's all you're going to do when it comes to that, not your entire street address. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Critty, I think that's how you say your name. You said, if I have no experience, can I write a qualification summary? Yeah, your qualification summary is very much like your, it's a summary in any way you want to call it, any name you want to give it. And you're going to focus on, even though you might not have a lot of experience, why are you passionate about that industry? Why do you even want that job? If you can focus on that, and focus on some of your skills and your expertise. Maybe it's not in the working field, but maybe it's through school, through education, through training. That can go into your qualification summary. Okay. Sean says, do you modify LinkedIn to support job opportunities? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Sean. Do you mean make changes to your profile? I think that's what you mean is changing like your profile to different job opportunities. The thing with your LinkedIn profile is you can change that at any time, which is amazing. But at the same time, you want to keep it so that it's focused or tailored toward the job that you want. So it's very similar to your resume. You can add a lot more personality and character to your LinkedIn profile. And I always recommend tailor it to the industry or the job that you want. Even if you're not in that industry, still tailor it. Let's see. So many questions, guys. I wish we could get to all of them. Okay, let me go with, Momo Ed says, question, would it be best to mimic your resume to the job description? Yes, so you're always going to be tailoring that resume to the job posting. So you might find like there's certain keywords or a certain language that the company is using. You want to make sure your resume is using that same language. So what I do with inside the Career Toolkit is I I provide opportunities for you to quickly switch out keywords so that you're not spending hours and hours. So your resume is going to have a general theme, right? It's going to tell your career story, but you can also switch out certain keywords so that when the hiring official reads your resume, they can say, "Oh yeah, this individual knows exactly what we're having a problem with, and they're telling me exactly how they can help me solve that problem." Good question. Okay, Ryan says, one of the things I'm struggling with is emailing a potential employer questions. Any suggestions on an outline? So Ryan, do you mean by questions like just saying, hey, I submitted my resume. Can you tell me where we are in the process? I think that's probably what you mean. And let me tell you something. When you are a job seeker, you have to be aggressive. You can't just sit back and let the process happen. You have to push the process forward. You have to take steps to make things happen for yourself. Now, I always, in fact, inside the toolkit, I have templates and resources for you to use, like guides that teach you how to respond to an application that you sent in, and maybe you haven't heard anything back. So maybe it's been like a week and you're like, hey, I really wanted this job. I'm really looking forward to an interview. What do you say? So I actually give you a template for that. Or let's say that you had a job and you did go on an interview and you were rejected and you were like, wait a second, I did so good in that interview. I could have sworn I was going to get an offer. How do you approach that? I have a template for you to submit to them to say, hey, I respect your decision, but I still think I'm the best candidate. Here's why. If there's any other positions open in the future, please let me know. So I give you kind of all the wording that you can use for that. Good question, Ryan. Jill, any tips for job searching in other countries, looking to move to Europe and escape Brexit, and no idea where to start or how CV is different in these countries? Jill, do as much research as you can. I work with a lot of individuals. I'm located in the United States, but I do work with a lot of individuals in other countries that are trying to go to a different country. And I always recommend do as much research as you can on the country you're going into to find out their specific resume format, because some countries, they want to see your picture on your resume. Some don't. Make sure you understand the language of the country, but then pinpoint specific companies that you would want to work for and target those. So don't just be like, oh, I want to work here, and like there's hundreds of thousands of jobs you could apply for. That's going to leave you so frustrated. You need to focus specifically on the position, the company. Get as focused as you can. Okay, Aaron. Okay, Kimberly, looks like you had a question. I do have a job fair. So good. Good job, Kimberly. Awesome about that. Make sure with the job fair, and Kimberly, I'm going to do a video about this, but it won't come out for another couple months, about job fairs. Make sure you have your resume for that and print out a bunch of copies. Should I use my resume without tailoring it? I need advice. Okay, first of all, Kimberly, what I'd recommend doing is make sure, so this is when it comes to the job fair, make sure that you know who's going to be there. Hopefully you can get your hands on a list. What I would do, and this is if you have the time, the energy, and you're like ready to hit this hard, if you can find out who's going to be there, and you can almost like have a resume that's like somewhat tailored to each position and hand it specifically to that person. If you want to really, I'm talking like you're pulling out all the stops, right? You could even have a cover letter for each of those that you hand specifically to the company. Now, if you don't have any of that information and you want just a general resume, still try and figure out who's there and try and make the resume so that it kind of fits within each of those companies. Like you're using keywords from all the companies and kind of like tailoring it into one, right? And then giving them each of that. But also make sure you get the business cards from the people that are at the job fair so that you can contact them a couple days after to say, hey, it was so great to meet you. I gave my resume. Like job fairs are a fantastic opportunity, but it does take work ahead of time. But if you pull out all the stops, fantastic things can happen. Okay, Aaron, could you help me with keywords being in an inconvenient tense that is difficult to incorporate? For example, greets with the keyword. Okay, so Erin, let me just kind of talk about keywords really quickly. When you're fitting in, because I think you're also talking about, you're wondering you couldn't fit in grammatically in the correct tense. Oh, I would just, in that case, Erin, I would switch out the word. So I would do a totally different word. If it's not fitting right, like if you're looking for an action verb, right? Like organized, implemented, researched, whatever. If the word is not fitting how you want it to, just switch out the word. Okay. Good question about what all is included in the toolkit. Let me show you really quickly the table of contents so that you guys can kind of see this. And so that you can kind of see what's in there. Now, I do take you through how to write your cover letter, of course, because I always think the cover letter is by far one of the most important career documents that you'll create. So I take you through a guide to the perfect cover letter. I also give you a cover letter example to look at and the template. So you actually get a separate document that you can type into, and I tell you exactly what to put in paragraph 1, what to put in paragraph 2, what to put in paragraph 3, and what to put in paragraph 4. And then I also give you an example of what a professional cover letter looks like. Inside of the template pack, you have your resume template. So I give you exactly like on line 1 of your resume, write this, or in the summary, write this. I tell you exactly what core competencies to put in there based on your industry. I mean, you have to do the legwork, like you have to know what those core competencies are, but I tell you exactly how to find that, how to write your work experience, all that fun stuff that goes into a resume. I also have a reference template, so your letter of reference template, your resignation letter. So if you're quitting a job, like how do you quit your job? Like, what do you say? So I give you a template for that. Application follow-up email. So again, this is what I was talking about earlier. If you apply for a job and you haven't heard back, like what do you say to say, hey, I applied for this job, I'm ready to move forward, I haven't heard back from you. So I give you exactly what to say there. I give you exactly what to say if you have a phone or a video interview. So how do you follow up after one of those, so that you can keep the process moving forward? Also, your in-person interview follow-up. So that's going to look a little bit different than a phone interview. And it kind of builds on, like you might send a follow-up template for a phone interview, but then you're also going to send one if you've been given an in-person interview. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in there. Your rejection follow-up. This is a big one because if you went on a job interview and you didn't get the job and you got that rejection letter, and I know how painful that is. How do you come out of that? How do you come up above that and move forward and even like reach out to the company and tell them, hey, I'm still interested? Because chances are if they're hiring for one position, they're hiring for another. So let's keep you on their radar. And then our bonuses all have to relate with LinkedIn. So I show you how to write your LinkedIn headline, how to write your summary, and I actually give you exercises to do to write the headline and the summary, which I think are the two biggest and important sections on LinkedIn these days. So that's what's inside the toolkit. Hopefully that helps you get a better idea of it. Oh my goodness, still so many questions. Okay, I know that I told my team we'd be out of here at the top of the hour, so I'm going to just pull a few of these. Let's see. Sean asked a good question. If the toolkit works for manufacturer engineer, yes, the toolkit works for any industry. You have to tailor it. You have to know the job you're applying for, the position, the industry, and then you use all the resources and you tailor that for your industry. Okay, Terry says, is it appropriate to submit through the company's ATS and send directly to the hiring manager via LinkedIn? Yes, Terry, remember, if you're still here, when I talked about, someone else asked a question about, should I reach out by phone or by email? And I said both. This is the same situation. Reach out however you can. Don't just submit your resume to an applicant tracking system and think that you're going to get called back and everything's going to fall into place. It does not work that way. If you submit through an applicant tracking system, go directly to their website, submit through their website, go directly to LinkedIn, find the hiring official, email the hiring official, send them your resume, send them your cover letter, introduce yourself on LinkedIn, whatever you can do. Call them. If you get their number, call the person, email the person, LinkedIn connect request them. Anything you can, you have to do to get your foot in the door. Good question, Terry. Okay, Brian. Hello, Brian. I haven't seen you here for a while, so glad that you're here. Brian says, I'm helping a friend update her resume. How do we find out the impact in her bullets? She doesn't quite know the numbers. I saved the company X dollars. Okay, this is where this takes a little bit of groundwork in the beginning, Brian. You have to do some brainstorming. So again, a lot of times when I help individuals with their resume, they're like, I'm not really sure what I did, or I'm not really sure how to quantify these bullet points, right? Or how to turn them into accomplishment-driven bullet points. It comes down to brainstorming. So you even have to like get out a notebook, have your friend get out a notebook and start jotting down like things that she's done. Or if this is you and anyone else in this situation, jot down things that you've done and try and think about like, maybe there's a general percentage. Like it could be that you save the company 20%, but it could be that you're thinking, well, was it 15 or 30%? And you kind of just go to the middle. Look at old emails. Performance reviews is a fantastic way to kind of brainstorm what it is. Also, if you are currently working, jot down those things right now. Like if you know you're in a job, but you want out of this job, you're not going to be there forever. Jot down things right now that you're doing that you can put on your resume for later so that you don't forget. So it takes a little bit of thought and brainstorming, but once you kind of get some of those things in there, it helps. And some positions are easier to quantify than others, and that's just the fact of the matter. If you can't quantify as much as you can, if there's things you're having a hard time quantifying, focus on some of your soft skills. These are leadership, management, your character, your personality, your behavior traits. Those are big too. Okay, Raymond, I've been rejected so far for having no work experience on the job. I tried to apply for the lower positions, but get rejected because overqualified. What can I do? Raymond, I would focus on really like those positions that kind of fit where you are. So if you're applying for positions where you're overqualified and then you're applying for positions that you're underqualified, what's in the middle? Like, what are some positions in the middle of that that you can focus on? And I would say hit it hard in those areas. And then I would say, don't just stop at that rejection. Like if you get that rejection, follow through with them and say, hey, I know that you didn't pick me for this position. Can you tell me a little bit of more why you didn't? And some people will share and some people won't. So it's a process that you have to keep tackling. Okay, Sean, what's the ideal size or pages for a mid-experience 3 to 5 years? 1 page, Sean, would be perfect. Anthony, would you advise LinkedIn Premium for job seekers? I love this question. Okay, Anthony, I don't have LinkedIn Premium. I don't advise it. I don't think job seekers need it. I do think that it is a valuable tool. Like if you're a recruiter, yeah, you need it because it gives you stats about positions and people that you wouldn't otherwise get. As a job seeker, you do get certain stats too, but really at the end of the day, it's not, if you have it, it's not going to make or break you getting a position. You do have to do a little bit more research on your end, but I don't recommend it. I don't think you need it. Good question. Do I need to paste my photo on a resume? It depends on where you're at, what country. If you're in the United States, Canada, UK, like that, those types of places, I don't think you need a photo. France, some other places you do. So just make sure you research the company before. Again, let me finish up here today by saying thank you guys so much for being here. I'm so glad that you guys shared some of your biggest takeaways. Looks like Jonathan says, thank you for all your amazing advice, Heather. You have totally enjoyed the story. Okay, you emailed me some things. That's great. And Brian says, lovely. Thank you. Momo gives some questions. You guys, thank you so much for being here with me today. Remember, we have our 2-day flash sale for the Career Advancement Toolkit. Grab it if you feel stuck, if you are uncertain about the next step, if you want to see results quickly. Again, all of the results that I shared with you earlier, these are people that have used some of the resources inside the toolkit. Thank you guys so much for being here with me live. Steve, you made it. Hello. So glad that you are here. Terry is here. Thank you, Terry. Anthony, thank you so much, everyone. Brian, everyone for being here. So glad that I could connect with you guys today. And I will see you guys next week. We'll chat soon.